Now we turn to the African experience. Whilst whistleblowers play a key role in exposing corruption and promoting accountability, many across the continent still face intimidation and retaliation. What needs to be done to better protect those who speak out? Well, to discuss this, we're now joined by Roshnee Narrandes, who's a regional director for Southern Africa at the Platform to Protect Whistleblowers in Africa. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Roshnee.
Morning, Peter, and good morning to your listeners.
So, the Platform to Protect Whistleblowers in Africa works across the continent. What are the biggest challenges facing whistleblowers today from your perspective?
So, what we found is that there are, a huge range of challenges. So, within a workplace environment, you would get victimization, which is most common. That can be characterized by dismissals, suspensions, financial losses. And then, of course, you also have reputational damage where the person is ostracized. There are continuous smear campaigns against the person. Judicial harassment comes into place. Slap suits are filed against them. There are safety threats as well. So there's a huge range, that of risks that a whistleblower faces. And then, of course, there are extremes, as we've noted in South Africa. You have assassinations. In some cases, you get forced exiles. And there's just not enough protection for whistleblowers within the continent.
So, I guess given what you've just said, then it's no surprise that many potential whistleblowers choose silence rather than coming forward. To change this, what needs to change in order to encourage them to come forward?
So, firstly, you need good legislation, okay? And while there is legislation, and PLAAF has done this, we sort of mapped legislation across the continent. But actually, there's only 12 countries that offer some levels of protection. So you do need good legislation, firstly. But you also need to ensure that those laws are properly implemented and enforced. And then secondly, whistleblowers need to be celebrated for being ethical, for being honest, for actually coming forth with information. In a lot of cases, so for example, in South Africa, there was they're not seen as being the sort of heroes that you want them to be noted to be. They are rather seen as being what would be formerly in the apartheid era, being seen as impimpies rather and spies, etc., rather than the information they provide, which is in the public interest, because the cases we work on is in the public interest. So it's public money mainly. And then they are seen as being outside of this cabal or loop that you get, and are then, victimized.
How effective are anonymous reporting systems, and what's needed to make people trust them?
So I think anonymous reporting systems are probably the most effective way to go. So, but there needs to be parameters in place that totally protects the whistleblowers. So, anonymous communication methods. They need to ensure that that person's data, information, etc., is not traceable. I think personally, we have many whistleblowers who wish to remain anonymous, unless obviously things go to court, etc., and then the possibility of witness protection kicks in. But I think being anonymous is probably the most effective way. We working quite closely with the Public Service Commission in South Africa, and they, for example, have a hotline. And for them, they've indicated to us in as many cases as possible, they try and keep that information as anonymous as possible, and so do we. We have a secure system in which we receive reports, etc., and it's possibly the best way. However, I do want to indicate in some cases, as you've seen in South Africa, somebody has basically only been doing their job, right? They don't assume that they're a whistleblower. This is part of their job. And they believe that they're doing the right thing. So they report these sort of anomalies that they pick up to their supervisor, to their manager, etc. In the meantime, that person is involved, and that's where you see the person is outed, etc. So we appeal to whistleblowers, try and be as anonymous as possible. Don't speak to other people about what you're dealing with. Try and keep that information as secure as possible. But also be alert that this may come across in your work. You'll just be doing your work, and incidentally, you become a whistleblower. So, from that perspective, it's also it's a challenge either way. You'll see in some cases that, it's better to go public because in some cases, being a public figure actually protects you, right? But I think in most 99% of the cases, anonymity plays a big part.
What message would you like to give to someone who's perhaps witnessed wrongdoing but is afraid to speak out?
Well, there are organizations like PLAAF, contact us. There are anonymous hotlines, in various countries have put this in place. I would say that whistleblowing is not just an ethical issue in countries sort of inundated by corruption. It's a very necessary act that somebody comes forward and opens this Pandora box of, fraud, corruption, etc., that is going on. Whistleblowers must be protected, supported, and celebrated. And the more countries acknowledge that and do that, whether it's from a civil society perspective, from a government perspective, from any perspective, just from a citizen's perspective, that's probably, the most important thing. Um, our future on this continent actually depends on people willing to tell the truth, and we need to work together. The ecosystem needs to support people telling the truth. They need to be celebrated. And really, if you have insider information about wrongdoing, contact us, and especially if it's in the public interest, because that's what we actually work on.
Roshnee, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed for your insights on this very important subject. Thanks so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's Roshnee Narrandes, who's a regional director for the Southern Africa Southern Africa at the Platform to Protect Whistleblowers in Africa, PPLAAF. It's 8:30 and it's time for your news headlines. Here's Dralani Tulo Nweve.